Hi, welcome to Historic Eats, where I recreate recipes from the past and share the history of how the recipe came to be. Today's recipe combines yellow sponge cake with rich custard and velvety chocolate ganache, and it makes me think of Easter and springtime. It is none other than Boston cream pie. Now, this channel focuses on finding the origin of some of the most delicious recipes that we enjoy today and making them as close as possible to how they were originally made, and then sharing the story of how they came to be and some fun history along the way. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, click subscribe because I have so many more delicious recipes I'd love to share with you. Now, Boston cream pie is made of a genoise sponge, and genoise sponge can be a little bit tricky because there's no leavening agent in it. The eggs are just really, really whipped. And I've got some tips from the experts that will ensure that the cake raises beautifully and that it doesn't fall, because you need the air content to be just right. So there's just a couple small things that we'll be doing that will just ensure that the cake comes out beautifully. And it is absolutely delicious. The custard inside is just so smooth and creamy, and the chocolate ganache is just the icing on the cake. So without any further ado, let's get started. To begin, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Grease an 8-inch cake pan and line with parchment paper. Next, sift together 1 cup of cake flour and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And you'll sift this through twice. And set that aside. Now for the next step, we'll be heating these ingredients over a double boiler. So use a bowl that is compatible with your double boiler, and to it add 4 whole eggs and 1 cup of white sugar. You just gently mix those together, and I'll take them right over to the stove. So I have a small pot of water simmering over here at the stove. I'm just going to put the bowl right on top of it. All I'm trying to do is gently heat it up to dissolve the sugar crystals without actually cooking the eggs. And you only need to get it up to about 105, 110 degrees. So not very hot, just a little hotter than like bath water. And at that point, the sugar should be pretty well dissolved, and we'll move it over to the stand mixer where I'll actually begin beating it on high. That only took a few minutes, and it's heated, and when you rub it between your fingers, you shouldn't feel any sugar crystals. And like I said, a little warmer than bath water, and I'm going to put it right in my stand mixer fitted with the whisk attachment, and I'm going to begin beating it on high. And it's going to get really voluminous and very pale in color, and it will probably take anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes.
So this has been mixing for about 6 minutes. As you can see, the volume has really increased and it's very pale and almost kind of foamy. Now a test is to put a toothpick in it, and if the toothpick stands up, then you know that it's firm enough and we're ready to go on to the next step. Now I'm going to remove the bowl from the mixer, and just by hand I'm going to begin stirring it for about 1 to 2 minutes, and all I'm trying to do is remove the large air pockets. So you just want to stir gently with a spoon or spatula, not a whisk, and that'll help deflate some of the larger air bubbles. Now to incorporate the dry ingredients, so I'm going to take my flour and salt mixture and just gently add it in batches, and again I'm just folding it with a spatula. And I'm just going to continue folding it until I don't see any more dry patches of flour. And as soon as I don't see any more dry areas, then it's all done.
In a microwave-safe bowl, I have a 1/4 cup of milk. To that, I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to microwave this until it's about 140 degrees. So that took 45 seconds in the microwave. The butter is completely melted. It's too hot to touch, but it's not boiling. So now we want to temper this by adding some of the batter to the butter and milk mixture. And now that it's tempered, we can safely add it to the remainder of the batter in the bowl. And again, we're just going to keep with that folding motion because we don't want to deflate the cake batter. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour it in my pan. And I'm going to drop it on the counter one time. That's just to get rid of any large air bubbles, and this will just go right in the oven, and it's preheated to 350 degrees. I'll begin checking in around 20-25 minutes until the toothpick comes out clean. To begin our custard filling, I have 4 egg yolks, and I'm just going to whisk those up in a bowl and set that aside. In a medium saucepan, add a half a cup of white sugar, a 1/4 cup of cornstarch, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 3/4 cup of whole milk. I'm going to mix this together and take it right over to the stove.
So I'm cooking this over medium heat, and I'm going to just whisk it continually. I'm going to cook it for almost 5 minutes. I just want it to get really thick.
So this is nice and thick. I just checked it. It's 174 degrees. So next I'm going to just temper the egg yolks the same way we did with the cake batter.
So I'm removing a little bit of the batter, and I'm just going to slowly pour it into the egg yolks and just whisk them. Add a little bit more and just whisk it together. Now that they've been tempered, I can go ahead and pour them back into the main bowl of batter. So with the digital thermometer ready, I'm going to return it to the heat and whisk it for about 2 more minutes. I want it to reach 170 to 175 degrees and then remove it from the heat. I have 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm just microwave it till it's fully melted.
To the melted butter, add 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla. And go ahead and add that.
And just whisk it briefly to combine. And now I'm going to transfer it to a plastic bowl. And cover it with saran wrap. And press the saran wrap all the way down on the surface of the custard to prevent a skin. Now this is going to go in the refrigerator for a minimum of 3 hours.
Okay, it's been 25 minutes. My timer just went off and I just took my cake out. It didn't fall. It looks beautiful. So I'm going to invert it right away. Just put your cooling rack right on top of there. There we go. I'm going to remove the parchment paper, and I'm going to just let it cool upside down like this for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then I'll turn it right side up.
Now the sponge has completely cooled and it came out beautiful. So all of that extra stirring and taking the time to make sure that it was just mixed just right ended up working out because it didn't fall. It's absolutely perfect. So all I need to do now is just cut it in half. So I don't have a guide, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. And use a serrated knife. Turn it here a little bit. Big spatula here. So while the cake is cooling and the custard is setting up and our oven is still warm, it's a perfect time to go ahead and toast our almonds. So reduce the temperature to the oven to 300 degrees. And then I just have a baking sheet aligned with foil. You don't have to grease it or anything. And I'm just gonna pour 1 cup of sliced almonds onto the pan, and this is going to go in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes, and you just want to watch it. You'll notice that the edges will just start to get brown, and that's exactly what we're looking for, just a nice light toast. So 8 to 10 minutes at 300 degrees.
So it's been just 10 minutes, the timer just went off, and as you can see, these were just starting to toast and get brown. It makes them so much more flavorful and fragrant. Just set those aside to cool. For the ganache, I have about 4 ounces of good dark chocolate, and then I'm going to add to that about a half a cup of heavy cream. And I'm just going to microwave this in 30-second, then 15-second intervals until it's completely melted and glossy. Okay, so everything has chilled and set, and it's time to assemble. So I have the bottom half of the cake on the cake plate, and I'm just going to put the custard right on top. For best results, the custard should be in the fridge overnight. I'm kind of rushing things to get this done, so it will set up a little bit more. And I'll just layer my other cake on top of that. So I put a light layer around the edges too. I'm just removing my wax paper. And now I'm just going to take my almonds and press them up along the sides. And 1 cup of almonds is definitely more than enough. You could probably get away with just a half a cup. I'm just going to neaten this up. Okay, that's better. Got rid of all my extra almonds. I'm just pressing them really good onto the custard. And my ganache is right here, ready to go. And you can definitely pour it so it runs down the sides. I'm going to try to keep mine on the top. It looks beautiful. So I'm going to pop this back in the fridge just to let the ganache set up before I cut it. But you could sprinkle it with more almonds. It's also traditional to put some white chocolate on top and then make like a web pattern or a marble. Looks so delicious. So I'll pop this in the fridge for about 30 minutes and then we'll cut it and enjoy.
The origin of the Boston cream pie dates back to 1856. Boston, Massachusetts was celebrating the grand opening of the Boston Parker House, later known as the Omni Parker House. Chef Mossberg Sanzian was the pastry chef of the hotel, and he developed a special cake for the occasion, using genoise sponge layered with velvety custard, then drizzled with chocolate ganache. Now, chocolate up to this point had been enjoyed almost exclusively as a hot dessert beverage, so topping a cake with it was inventive. Coincidentally, Mossberg called his cake a chocolate cream pie. Now, this delicious concoction was a huge success, and the fame of it grew. And although it was a cake, people referred to it as a pie because pie tins were common in colonial kitchens. So originally, those preparing the dessert made them in pie tins. Now, its origin became its namesake, and it continued to be referred to as the Boston cream pie.
Okay, so everything is all set up and I cut a piece. It's time to give it a try. It looks delicious. It's really good. The sponge cake is so soft and really, really mild. And the custard just comes through really nice. It's delicious. I understand why they make Boston cream donuts because that is just perfect. It really makes me think of spring. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Boston cream pie. Please click subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I have more recipes on the way, so be sure to tune back in. And thanks again for joining me. Until next time, bye-bye.